We have a nice squeeze setting up inside of Dr. Horton. We're going to break that stock down in today's video, looking at both the daily and the weekly time frames, along with all of the different squeeze signals that we're seeing. We're seeing a blue sign arrow, which is our squeeze signals indicator. We're seeing a yellow arrow, which is our slingshot squeeze indicator. And we're also seeing just a regular good old edge signal, which is an oversold overbought signal. So now really over here, we're seeing three different bullish signals. We have a market pulse that's telling us we're in a stage of acceleration, and we have stacked moving averages really across the board. So let's start by breaking down the cyan arrow first using some actual statistics and data. Now this is going to be off of the daily 5-year time frame chart, but we can go ahead and expand that. Before we break down the stats actually, I think it's important to call out that using our February high to our March low, using that swing, we've now hit the 1272, the 1618, and finally the 200 as well, really taking out the three major extensions that we would have. Usually once that happens, that would then suggest to us that we're looking for a new swing high to swing low, and that would be the most recent one with our high of 106.89, our low, which was the candle touching the 1618, and using that, if we take a look to see where our new projections are, 112.90 all the way up to 120.55. So that's our upside potential. Now let's take a look at these signals to see how valid are they to help get us there. So let's start with the cyan arrow first, which is our squeeze signals indicator. So if I load in that backtester, and for all Volatility Box members, if you're trying to follow along, you can download the backtester on our squeeze course webpage. It's right here, the Slingshot Squeeze backtester, the squeeze signals backtester, along with the actual triple squeeze. So now using our squeeze signals backtester here, we've loaded this in past 5 years. You'll notice 5 winners, 0 losers. So right off the bat, that's a good sign. Average winner, 6.61%. That's a good sign. Obviously no loser. Average trade duration here, 28.8 days. So keep that in mind. This is a trade that tends to last a little bit longer. So if you are using options, give yourself some time. So that's off of our daily time frame chart here, where we had upside movement of potentially 6.61% on average. If we use our trend line tool just to project that on a pretty rough basis, on the upside, 6.61% takes us really into the 786 retracement of this new swing high to swing low. So let's call it 102.16 is your potential area that you'd be looking at for this signal to try and take us into. Now, if we load in our second backtester here for the yellow arrow, so that's the slingshot squeeze, the overall idea here that we'd like to see is both backtesters are telling us that this is positive. Now off of our slingshot squeeze here, very similar, 5 winners, 0 losers. Average winner, 6.85%. The average trade duration, just a little bit smaller, 24.6, but more or less very similar stats to the cyan arrow that we saw. This is what we wanted to see, another good sign as well. So now we know that both the cyan and the yellow arrow off of the daily time frame chart over the past 5 years have been effective signals 5 out of the 5 times that they've presented themselves. Now let's switch over to the weekly time frame chart. So if I come into the weekly time frame, here we have 20 years worth of data that we're giving for DHI, and we have the slingshot squeeze, which is the yellow arrow loaded in, and you'll notice that this trade has already triggered from the backtester's perspective. If I click show report here, the trade entry price that it's using for this calculation, 97.78. So that's the price you need to beat if you're looking to emulate the same strategy as this backtester. 97.78, which as of right now, we have a price better than that. Now using this signal though, we had 4 winners, 2 losers. So the statistics here not as great as the daily time frame chart, really 4 out of 6 in terms of this overall trade strategy. The average winner there, 15.36%. The 2 losers were a bit greater, and the average trade duration, 11.5 weeks. So our weekly time frame squeeze here doesn't necessarily look as compelling in terms of 5 and 0. However, we do have more winners than losers. The one other thing I don't like is the average loser is quite a bit bigger than the average winner off of the weekly time frame. So keep that in the back of your head and use that again when you're trying to plan out how you'd like to play this move. This move looks a lot more interesting off of the daily time frame for a shorter move to that 102.16 zone, maybe not trying to play off of the weekly time frame, but still using the daily time frame squeezes, the 5 and 0s across the board for 1 and 2 signals, and use this in your favor to try and play a potential move into that 102.16 mark. If we do hit that zone, I'd expect to see a bit of resistance there. That's where I'd be looking at taking profits. Also overlaps that 200% area a little bit better for a second retest from that first time where we broke above. And I think everything here naturally points to that being a good first target zone. Now finally, to wrap this video up, let's take a look to see all the different places in which we have a squeeze setting up, since if I come into even a 1 minute time frame chart, you'll notice a squeeze at this point. So if I load in our MTF squeeze indicator here, so we have our triple squeeze, the MTF version, and we go ahead and just load that in. Using that, we can see we have a squeeze off of the 1 minute, the 2 minute, the 5 minute, the 10 minute, the 20 minute, the 1 hour, the 2 hour, the 4 hour, the daily, the 2 day, the 3 day, the 4 day, and the weekly. So signals all across the board here, which again suggests the idea that we're looking at some sort of movement in DHI to start to pick up here sooner than later. The daily time frame is the one that looks most ripe in terms of the longer dated time frames, and you can also go ahead and try and test signals out on that 2 day to 4 day period if that is something you'd like to do as well. All right, hope this video was helpful. Take care, everyone. Good luck trading, and we'll see you in the next update.